Yeah, I know. All right, get my coat off. I'm just waiting for my notes and stuff. All right. Hello. How are you again? Nice to see you. Thanks for being here today. Hi, I'm good. How are you? Nice to see you again. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Go ahead.
Well, I have a dot. Folks, welcome. It's so awesome to have Marit back here in Oshawa and, of course, back at the Canadian Automotive Museum. I'm Jennifer French, and I'm very pleased to see everyone here this bright morning. We are standing in the Canadian Automotive Museum, surrounded by Oshawa's rich history and the promise of a bright future when it comes to automotive. And I'm so pleased to have Marit back in town, but Marit is not new to Oshawa. She has been here. She has seen us through different challenges and tough times. She has met with the workers and, of course, is glad to be back and hear from real people about what matters to them. And so Oshawa's NDP has never given up on Oshawa. We will remember those dark times in 2018. You will remember that folks were pretty scared, and it was the Premier who said that there shouldn't be hope. The Premier who had given up on Oshawa. Well, I didn't give up on Oshawa. The workers didn't give up on Oshawa. Neither did Marit Stiles. And so we're very pleased to have her back in Oshawa today. I'm so proud to introduce the leader of the Ontario NDP and Ontario's next Premier, Marit Stiles.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here this morning. I wanted to start by saying there is no bigger champion, not just for Oshawa, but for working families across this province than Jennifer French. Really, truly. She has been fighting for people in Oshawa every single day. She will continue to do that. And yeah, it is great to be back here in Oshawa. I'm so happy to be here alongside some members and retirees from Local 222, auto workers, building trucks right here in Oshawa, proudly Ontario made and driven throughout North America. Today, we're at the Canadian Automotive Museum. This is not my first time here, I will tell you. It's an amazing place if you haven't been before. And it showcases over 100 years of auto manufacturing in this city and actually around Canada, in fact. We're surrounded here by the legacy of the auto industry and its connection with the people of Ontario. And that's a century of good jobs, of good union jobs, where working hard has meant that you can make a living and you can find security in retirement. But good jobs shouldn't just be a part of our history, they should be a part of Ontario's future. We're here to make sure that this sector continues for generations. And if the worst does come to pass tomorrow, New Democrats are going to be here, as we have always been, to bridge our industries and our communities through this attack. We're going to make sure that healthcare stays strong, our libraries stay open, and we have the community supports that we need to stay strong together, like, frankly, you always do. As Jennifer has said so many times before, GM didn't build Oshawa, Oshawa built GM. Now, since the very start of this campaign, and ever since this threat raised its ugly head, I have stood with workers and with communities in this face of Donald Trump's tariffs, to join you in solidarity, to stand together in this moment of uncertainty, and to let people know that the Ontario NDP is on your side. I know you're worried. You're feeling anxious. I'm hearing it everywhere I go, and I have been for a while now. People are worried. You're worried about losing your jobs. You're worried about being able to keep the lights on. You're worried about being able to make rent and mortgage payments. You're worried about the cost of groceries and how you're going to feed your families, your kids. People are worried that tariffs are going to make life even more expensive than it already is in Ontario. And people are afraid that life in Ontario is going to become even harder. And there's no question, Donald Trump's tariffs are a direct and existential threat to Ontario, to our province, to our economy, and to our quality of life. Ontario's NDP have a plan to protect workers from the worst of the tariffs and to fight back. As Premier, I will defend each and every single job in this province. We will fight back as part of a strong Team Canada, and we will get to work building a tariff-proof Ontario for the years ahead. First, for a premier and a government that is on your side. I'm running to be that premier. We are running to be that government. Thank you very much, and I'm really happy to take your questions.
There's one here, there's one on that side.
Marit, what do you make of Doug Ford deciding to rip up the Starlink contract? He was sort of on the fence about it before, now he's doing it. What do you make of this turnaround?
Well, I mean, of course, he has to tear up the Starlink deal. A bad deal that he made. It was a bad deal from day one. And the problem is that there's so many other bad deals that Doug Ford has made. For example, let's start with Staples, Walmart, yes, Starlink. We also lost a lot of jobs because of deals he made around the Ontario line production. Good jobs that should have been up in Thunder Bay. We lost those jobs too. So yes, you got to tear up that contract, but I will say as well, we better make sure, and he better be on this right now, and I certainly will make sure that those communities that were waiting and counting on that connection, they need an alternative right away, and it needs to be a Canadian alternative. Thank you.
Do you want to go?
You'll go for it.
Oh, is this on? Okay, well, he mentioned Starlink, so I'm going to take Tesla.
Okay.
There is a Ontario voter coalition petition out right now to have Tesla stores banned from Cadillac Fairview malls throughout the GTA, one of which is in Oshawa. It's got about 1,400 signatures on it right now. Do you support that, or how do you feel about that petition?
Well, I mean, I think that this is what Canadians are starting to decide. I'm looking at this myself. You know, if they're going to hit us like that, a country that we have stood with, that Canadians have died in allyship with, then I think we're going to have to hit back hard. And I know a lot of Ontarians are looking right now at what the alternatives are. And there's no question that we have to look at Canadian content rules, at supporting Canadian production, Canadian manufacturing. We know the federal government is talking about retaliatory steps as well. I'll be looking out to see more details of that. But you know, absolutely, we have to be looking, and I think as consumers, we get to use our power as consumers as well to send a very strong message to the United States. You know, we're not going to just sit back and accept this. We are going to fight back. And I think Ontarians, and I'm seeing a lot of Ontarians talking about that, exercising that power that they have. And I say, go for it. Let's do it. You know, I'm a big fan, and I've worked very hard in my life, in my professional life, to fight for Canadian content rules. And I think that is where we're at right now, is in continuing to have, in fact, strengthen Canadian content rules, Canadian industry. And that is going to be absolutely an essential step in the pushback. Yeah.
Would you urge a boycott of Tesla, Starlink, anything related to people get off X?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. And I think we have to hit hard. And I think, as you said, you know, a lot of people are looking at what is the power that I have in this moment? Well, Not many people can afford a Tesla. I will say that. But you know what? We do have power as consumers, and we will be exercising it, whether it's deciding between a Canadian Apple or an American Apple, or a Canadian vehicle or an American vehicle. 100%.
All right. So Doug Ford is saying some similar things to you over the last few days, also being Team Canada, also saying he's, working with unions, and also has been saying he is pro sort of buy Ontario. What do you think that you're promising today is the most unique compared to what Doug Ford has been promising people over the last couple of days?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, first of all, that, are you kidding me? You can't trust Doug Ford, right? He made these bad deals. So I'm glad he's woken up to the importance of Ontario and Ontario-made products, and having Ontario plan, but he's a little late to the game. And I think that what I would say is he's left us very vulnerable right now. And I say that in two fronts. On the one hand, he has his cuts and his failure to care for people, whether it's our healthcare system or our education system, or the fact that our rents have soared under his watch and housing is not being built. He has left Ontarians so vulnerable. And bullies like Trump, they see that. They know it. They know that we're in a very precarious position right now as Ontarians, and Ontarians are feeling it. So I'm glad he's finally waking up, but he's a little too late. And I don't think Ontarians trust him to deliver on this. And I also think that the NDP, Ontario's NDP, we have a strong track record of believing in, investing in Canadian content, in Canadian manufacturing. We understand what it's going to take to protect our supply chains. And I would say the thing that I'm offering that I think is very different is I am talking about tariff proofing for the future, for now, but also for the future, because we cannot be left this vulnerable again. And we cannot trust Doug Ford to protect us and to truly care for Canadians and Ontarians in this moment.
So in the now piece, your release, you say you're going to negotiate a joint federal provincial income assistance program to support people whose livelihoods are impacted by tariffs. What exactly could that look like? Is that something you've already started speaking with the federal government about? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, look, I mean, we know the federal government mentioned it. The Prime Minister mentioned this in his comments the other day. What I'm saying today is we need to work very carefully with the federal government. We need to see what they're offering, and we need to work with them to make sure that Ontarians are protected, our communities are supported. People need to be supported and protected. And I'm also talking as well, of course, which will have more details to come out, but I am talking as well about making sure that people who want to work have jobs. And I think that's something that we've been talking about for a long time now, because the NDP put forward a plan, for example, Homes Ontario, to build truly affordable, permanently affordable housing in the province of Ontario. That is the kind of project where we can make sure there are more jobs for more people, and we can actually do things that are going to tariff-proof us, that are going to future-proof us, that are going to make sure that Ontarians are less vulnerable and stronger in the future, right? By having the homes that we can afford, the schools that we need, and training the next generations. I think another very important part of what I talked about today is making sure that our colleges and our universities and our schools are ready and are part of the future and the investment that we make in preparing Ontario workers for this new future.
Marit, Ontario is not the only province that needs to be tariff-proofed. And one of the things that has sort of come up during this whole fiasco with the tariffs is the vulnerability that not having an oil pipeline to either the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean has left Alberta, and it has sort of unfueled their unwillingness to cut exports. These pipelines have been in the works, have been talked about for decades, and they've all sort of come to nothing. If, for the sake of a united Canadian front, if you were premier, would you allow a revived Energy East pipeline to go through Alberta or to go through Ontario?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would say that I think it's not going to be, in my experience, it's not really Ontario that's blocking that per se. I mean, I think these are the big questions that we have to ask ourselves as a country. But I will say this, that Ontario right now, my focus on what we are going to be looking at for the future is how do we protect our manufacturing industry here, our auto sector, which is the backbone of our economy. That's why we're standing here today in the Canadian Automotive Museum, because we don't want that to be a part of our history. That needs to be very much a part of our future, our today and our tomorrow. And that's what we're going to be focused on.
Do you agree in principle that Canada needs an oil pipeline to either the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean?
I believe that we need to look at a strong Ontario approach to ensuring that we are tariff proof in the future and that we support our people and protect our communities.
How worried are you that what happened in 2018 with GM could happen again with these tariffs here in Oshawa?
I'm very worried. And I will not forget how Doug Ford approached that, how he just shrugged it off and he said, oh, it's done. He was not willing to stand up and fight for the people of Oshawa or the people of Ontario. It was Jennifer French and Ontario NDP MPPs that shamed him, along with the people of Oshawa, who shamed him into starting to take action. But look, he was willing to walk away. And I think that's what concerns me, because with Doug Ford, all you have to do is look at his record. His record is side deals, bad deals, deals that sell off and sell out Ontario companies every time. And we've seen it again and again. Staples, Walmart, Starlink. We've seen it with the jobs that he was willing to give up that could have been given to Thunder Bay on the Ontario line. These are jobs that, again, families were depending on. Doug Ford let us down then, and he will let us down again.
So do you think GM could leave Oshawa and shut down here?
I absolutely think look, we know that the sector that is probably the most vulnerable at this very moment is the auto sector. But we also know that there are so many other jobs and pieces along the supply chain that will be impacted all across Ontario. Yeah. So it's absolutely, and I think it's what people are really worrying about right now. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people in Ontario, they're not sure yet how this is going to impact them. People in places like Oshawa, they know exactly what it happens because they've been through it before. Yeah.
When do you expect to have all the candidates for your party announced?
Yes, soon. We're very close now, actually, to having people ready to go in every single riding in the province. So I'm 100% confident that we're going to have candidates running in every single riding across the province. And as I've said before, the NDP, we already have MPPs as the official opposition. We have MPPs already elected in every corner, every region of this province. So we have boots on the ground. And so we are very ready to go, and we will be flipping seats from blue to orange. That is our focus all across the province of Ontario. And of course, making sure that really strong MPPs like Jennifer French here in Oshawa are ready to be part of a strong NDP government that is on your side.
Hi, Marit. This is Sharif Hassan from the Canadian Press.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. So my question for you is that, do you think that Doug Ford's announcement about the Starlink deal further blurred the lines between the candidate Doug Ford and the Premier Doug Ford? So this is the first question.
Well, I mean, yes, I hear what you're saying. He's a caretaker in this moment, I guess you could say. Look, Doug Ford, he quit his job as premier last week. He quit his job as premier. I am running to be that premier. I would also cancel the Starlink deal. Whether he has the ability to do that right now in the middle of an election where he's not really the premier is a different story. But I would say I absolutely would do this. I will actually cancel that deal. But I think very importantly, I cannot overstate this. A lot of people are counting on that connection. And so we need to make sure that we replace that with a deal involving a Canadian company that is going to deliver that service. And I think, honestly, I really believe, I could never understand why he was willing to pay so much more than a regular connection, like to Starlink. That deal always smelled funny to me, honestly. So I think we can get a better deal with a Canadian company to supply and connect so many people in this province, and we can do it fast. And I, as the Premier of Ontario, would do that.
The follow-up question is that, What is your proposed stimulus package costed at? Could you provide some more details on that? Where the money comes from? Any details on that?
Well, on the stimulus package, we will be working in lockstep with the federal government. We will be working with them to make sure that we are doing this in the best way possible, but it will be a federal provincial stimulus package. And so we'll be working with the federal government on that. At this point, we're working with the federal government and we will be delivering it in lockstep with them.
Okay, I have one more. I know you've said you're gonna protect the auto industry.
Yeah.
And you're gonna look for ways to make us tariff proof. But for the last 35 years, and people remember the auto pact, in Oshawa, Windsor, St. Catharines, London, all over the place, we've been tied at the hips with
Yeah.
the US.
Yeah.
All the US companies. And not only that, but there's about 7 other jobs that are connected
right.
to the auto industry.
Yeah.
Plus, I understand there's trucking, there's suppliers, there's car parts,
Mhm.
and they move back and forth across
That's
the
right.
border. So from the way I've heard, we could be looking at plant shutdowns in both Canada and the US within a week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and layoffs.
Yeah.
So this may be a long-term plan, but is there really anything short-term we can do?
Well, I mean, I think this is the key part, right? Donald Trump thinks he can mess with us, but when he's messing with the auto industry in Canada and he's applying these massive tariffs, he's also impacting American industry. And I think that the implications of this are going to be felt deeply by American manufacturers and all along the supply chain, which, as we all know in Ontario very well, and here in Oshawa especially, is tied together very tightly. So I think this is actually one of the reasons why I'm hopeful that we can push back, that American industry will also push back. But I will tell you this though, because I don't want to pretend. I think auto workers, I'm hearing it directly when I was in Windsor and here in Oshawa, people are afraid. And I understand why, because you know what the impact will be, not just on the auto industry, but the economic spin-off, right? All of those other folks, those community members, those small businesses and everybody who's connected to that. And I want to assure folks in Windsor, in Oshawa, everywhere where the auto industry has a significant impact across the province of Ontario, we will work like hell to protect every single job. And if you lose your job, we will be there to protect you, to care for those communities, and we will make sure that we continue to provide the strong supports that you need in your community, which includes things like a good healthcare system, good schools, and education for our kids. You know, this is not an overnight solution. It has to happen now, but you cannot trust Doug Ford to make this right. He has walked away before, he has shrugged his shoulders, and I don't trust him to not pit one sector after another or to let some jobs go to help out his friends and insiders, because those are the deals that he's made over and over again. He's shown us who he is, right? He's shown Ontarians who he is, and we know that he's not in it for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Back to the tariff piece and this tariff response plan. I mean, people are already voting. There's no dollar figures attached to anything. Can you say more about why there isn't any dollar figures attached and why people should trust that you can actually get something done without any dollar figures attached?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, most of our, we know that these tariffs, the threat of the tariffs I believed it was coming for real. But we, of course, are now just seeing what the exact nature of those tariffs are going to be. We're working very closely with the federal government, and we will continue to do that to make sure that we have a strong stimulus package in place, that we have supports for Ontarians, for Canadians to protect you and your community. But I think, and most importantly, and you'll be learning more about this in days to come.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Prime Minister's meeting with Trump today, what message do you hope he sends?
Sorry, what was that?
Without Prime Minister's meeting with Trump today by phone, what message do you hope the Prime Minister sends to Trump?
Well, I hope he sends a strong message to Mr. Trump that we are not going to sit back and just take this. Ontarians are proud. Canadians are proud of our communities. They need us just as much as we need them. They may not realize it yet, but they're going to find out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That'll be the last
Okay.
question.
Take care. Thank you.
We're gonna head upstairs, folks.